Good morning, everybody. My name is John Paul. I'm President and CEO of Carter Express. Carter Express is a motor carrier. We've been located here in Madison County since 1984. My dad started a business in 1957 up here, so we've been part of Madison County for a long time. But today, we're not here to talk about Carter. We're here to talk about the Drive Safe Act. And we have Senator Todd Young, the sponsor of the bill, here with us to tell us about it. Todd is a fifth-generation Hoosier. He's a U.S. veteran. He was proud to serve in the Senate on behalf of Indiana. He enlisted in the Navy out of high school and later graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy. Todd served in the House until 2016 when he was elected to the Senate. Todd currently serves on the Senate committees on foreign relations, health and education, commerce, science and transportation, labor and pension, small business, and entrepreneurship. Senator Todd Young.
Good morning. I want to thank John for that kind introduction. I also want to thank Carter Express and all of you stakeholders of the Indiana logistics industry for being here. Today's a great day as we reflect on this new legislation that we've introduced. This benefits any users, consumers, producers, or movers of the things that help make our economy run. This also benefits our young people as they look for pathways of opportunity into this growing economy. So I happen to serve on the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee in the United States Senate on your behalf. And therefore, I'm able to advocate for safety. I'm able to advocate for all the priorities of Indiana's logistics industry, which I know is really important to the crossroads of America. Last Congress, I worked with a number of you on the driver shortage issue. It was an issue I had some familiarity with, having served in the House of Representatives for 6 years, but as our economy continued to grow, this issue grew increasingly serious. So firms like Stan's Food Service in South Bend, Venture Logistics in Indianapolis, Wabash Food Service in Vincennes, IDS Fulfillment in Plainfield, and dozens of other firms just kept beating the drum with me and members of my team, and that's a good thing. And you wanted Congress to act, to help identify solutions to this driver shortage issue. It was through these meetings that led to my introduction of this piece of legislation, the Drive Safe Act. I was joined by Senators Moran, Inhofe, and Cotton originally, and since last Congress, we've been able to entice Senator Tester, who has a trucking background himself, Senator Manchin, and Senator King to sign on. The Drive Safe Act will help alleviate the driver shortage issue by allowing qualified commercial drivers between the ages of 18 and 20 to operate commercial vehicles in interstate commerce. Now, it's notable that 48 states already allow for 18-year-old truck drivers to obtain a CDL and drive a truck intrastate. However, it's current federal regulations which prevent these drivers from engaging in interstate commerce, which is Congress's charge. So what does this mean in the real world? This means a 20-year-old Hoosier truck driver can legally drive now, once this passes, and I hope it will pass in coming months, can legally drive across Indiana from Mount Vernon to Angola, but not just do that. They can now also drive from Jeffersonville to Louisville, from Lawrenceburg to Cincinnati, from Gary to Chicago. So the Drive Safe Act would remove the costly and burdensome impediment to interstate commerce by establishing a rigorous Department of Transportation apprenticeship program. 18 to 20-year-old candidates would train alongside experienced commercial drivers through an apprenticeship program that requires them to demonstrate competency across established performance benchmarks over a two-phase, 400-hour training program. all on state-of-the-art trucks equipped with active braking collision mitigation systems, forward-facing video event capture, and speed governors set at 65 miles per hour. So the 18 to 20-year-old would have to not only obtain the CDL, but obtain a standard of competency and safety over and above current CDL standards. Now, at this point, I'd be remiss if I didn't call out one individual. He is one of America's road team captains, Mr. William Goins of Cloverdale. William, are you here? Bill?
Right here.
All right. So, Bill was named a road team captain because of his lifetime record of safety and professionalism in this industry. And he exemplifies the sort of truck driver that will be working with these young truck drivers, these young aspiring Hoosiers and others across the country to be trained to drive across state, not just intrastate, under this new construct. So, in summary, the Drive Safe Act will help solve our nation's driver shortage issue while also providing a respectable career for young Hoosiers to immediately enter at 18 years of age, a pathway that isn't available to most 18 to 20-year-olds given the current federal interstate commerce driving regulations. This will also, of course, lead to reduced cost of the things we move, so it will benefit all consumers. All the things that we need to move across state lines that serve as inputs in the auto industry and in the manufacturing industry, which happens to be more robust here in this state than any state in the country. The cost of those things will go down as the cost of transport goes down. But I think most importantly, we're providing professional opportunities to young people so that they can drive trucks, and that's what gets me most excited about this. So I look forward to continuing to work with those here present today and other stakeholders across the state and nation to make sure that we pass this legislation, and I look forward to taking a few questions. But before I do, I'd like to turn the podium over to my dear friend Gary Langston, who I have to say provided really important and helpful counsel as we drafted this legislation. Gary?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Young. We truly appreciate your continued focus on this important piece of legislation, S569, the Drive Safe Act. As has been described, it's a common sense approach to one of the most significant issues that we have in the trucking industry, which is the driver shortage. Depending on who you ask, we have at least 50,000 short right now, and it's probably more than that. But I think the important thing about this is that it's not just an effort to fill seats. It's equally focused on our #1 priority that the trucking industry focuses on every day, and that's safety. As described, these apprentices, as they will be called, will be in equipment that is state-of-the-art technology, nothing better on the road, and they'll be with the best trained and the best safety record drivers that we have out there. So you'll know that the highways are safe. It's a bipartisan effort, as was described, which is very important these days. No more important than ever, but certainly important these days in Congress. You may or may not know that our industry spends over $9 billion a year in technology and safety training, and this is just an extension of that. There are no shortcuts being taken, and there's certainly nothing about this that is not good for our state and our nation. I want to thank Senator Young. This is just the most recent installment in many of the things that he focuses on to make life better for Hoosiers and make life better for Americans in general. So we thank you very much for that. I'd now like to turn it over to Hugh Andrews, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Red Gold Tomato Transport, and is also the 2019 Chairman of the Indiana Motor Truck Association.
Thank you very much for joining us here today. You know, as you talk about stakeholders, we're all very interested and invested in this industry we're in. And safety is paramount. So Gary just touched on, we spend hundreds of millions of dollars in industry. We spend a lot of time training our drivers. So, you know, many are concerned about the safety of this, but this is a no-brainer for us. We've been training drivers for years. You know, the truck behind us and our trucks and many of the trucks on the road these days, it's a perfect opportunity to bring the next generation into our trucks, because these technologies that we've got on these trucks make them very safe and an easy transition to get drivers onto the road. Accident mitigation is on all these trucks. It's amazing what they do to avoid accidents. In addition to that, we've got lane departures, we've got bells and whistles going off if the driver just veers out of the lane at all. So we're at a point where it's a perfect opportunity to introduce this bill and then transition the workforce, you know, from high school into our trucks. So we can bring them a great living. You know, the average truck driver these days is making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year, plus, you know, plus benefits, plus a retirement plan, plus bonuses. So it's a great opportunity to bring them into our industry and let them grow and flourish from there. So we really support it, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.
I'd be happy to field a few questions, and I'll look for an assist from Gary or somebody else if it's something in our pain nature. So,
Gary, let me start on pain. Gary, what indication is there that 18-year-olds want to see their truck? How effective is this being living?
The question is, why do we think 18-year-olds are interested?
Right, and how many drivers do you anticipate being able to have with this event?
Well, you know, that's hard to answer that because they've never had that opportunity. We know that there's a lot of work, vocational work in the high schools these days, and trying to add these kinds of programs and prepare 18-year-olds coming out of high school for this kind of work. So we believe that there's an interest, and we need to capture those people. When they have to wait between 18 and 21 to even have an opportunity, they certainly find other ways to make a living, and by then it's hard to capture them. But we believe there's a strong interest in it.
I mean, as I travel around the state of Indiana, I'm reminded on a daily basis about the sheer work ethic, and just, you know, it's part of our culture. And during this time of tight labor markets, I'm not worried at all about young Hoosiers stepping into this training program and seeing a professional opportunity, whether they stick with it for an entire career or go on to establish perhaps their own logistics business. I think it's. I think the other thing we have to keep in mind here, without getting too sort of economic, but you know, these trucking companies have increased their wages to the point where how much can you earn driving a truck these days? Maybe you want to speak to that a little bit, and I think that could be really, you know, enticing to our young people. It's oftentimes not understood just how well you can do it. You apply yourself. You don't have to attend a 4-year college program. You don't need to go out and get an associate's degree. You can drive a truck, engage in very meaningful and important work, and take care of your family doing so just fine here in the state of Indiana.
Sure. Yeah. Follow on that and just continue on is, you know, instead of coming out of high school and getting pushed into college or pushed into another trade where you're burdened with a lot of debt, you know, a truck driver could come right out of school and hop into a truck and go through a training program, and in the first year, you know, easily make $50,000, $60,000 a year with benefits and grow into something more than that. So, you know, we have increased rates to our drivers, you know, for many, many reasons, but it's a great living. It's a great opportunity for a driver to come in and make a long-lasting career, very well compensated. So, as I'm sure we can attest to behind us.
Senator, will these apprenticeship programs provide the people with a pay rate, and will their training be paid for through a federal program?
I can take them. At Carter Kin, we've been training drivers for probably the last 15 years. Currently, out of the 900 drivers we have, 1/3 of them came through our training program. And we pay for 100% of their tuition, and we do pay them a small wage while they're going through school. Then after they get through school, which is only about 4 weeks, we put them with a driver trainer from 6 to another 12 weeks, just to make sure they're seasoned and ready to go out on the road. Unfortunately, all those guys are usually second career because they have to be 21 or older. What we're hoping to do is capture some of these guys right out of high school before they find another career, and then they're already doing something else by the time they can drive a truck.
So I know John and you.
I'll just interject. The free enterprise system, despite some questioning its effectiveness in recent history, does work. And so it'll be to the advantage of these logistics companies to entice people out of high school into these training programs, and so they will compete against one another in order to bring people into the apprenticeship program. And so the wages associated with that will depend on the need of a particular company.
So do you guys hire somebody under the age of 21 now to drive inside the state of Indiana?
No.
How about you?
We do not.
We don't at this point because we're involved in interstate commerce, not intrastate.
So, because my point was, if you got a guy going from Anderson to say Cold Spring, Michigan, you have to have two drivers because if he's under 21, you got to change drivers.
That's correct. So we just don't have that many runs that start and stop in Indiana.
Okay.
So a guy can drive to Jeffersonville, Indiana, but he can't go to Louisville. So we just can't use it.
Okay.
Senator, we had this bill last year. What reason is there to expect this will be a better use year than last year?
This is not an election year, so that's helpful. So, and I say that with more than, in all seriousness. I think we really have a window of opportunity here over the next year, perhaps most especially over the next 6 to 9 months, to get some bipartisan legislation passed. And I listed off a number of the people who are now involved in advocating for this. This is not an ideological piece of bill. This is the largest job category in the United States of America, truck driver. And it's an incredibly tight labor market, and so I'm hopeful we can move it fairly soon.
Senator, you've set the standards. Does the bill address or will address any set standards for the trainers? The bill's got tons of experience. There's tons of guys out there like that. But as it grows, you might see a deterioration of the actual trainer force. Does the bill address any minimum requirements for trainers or minimum?
It does. There's a very precise outline of what's required. The driver has to have 2 years of safe driving, no accident-free driving, and which most have much more than that. But there are very specific guidelines that we can get to you if you need to know more about that.
All right. As someone who's led platoons before, I'm going to put these folks at parade rest, and we're going to end this, and I'm happy to circulate and take some more questions. So thank you much.